Hello,
Ooh,
hello.
greetings and salutations. I already
Yeah.
did a banishing on my end, so you should do your banishing on your end.
Oh, okay. Goblins, be gone!
Goblins, be gone! There
Be
we go.
gone! Oh, there goes Bernie. Bernie is secretly a goblin. Don't tell anybody. No, he's a Kentucky goblin. He was actually adopted from
Baby.
a place in Kentucky, so he kind of has that Hopkinsville vibe to him.
I didn't know Bern was from Kentucky. He's the best thing that ever came out of Kentucky, I can tell you that. I mean, from Louisville anyway. Sorry,
Yeah,
Louisville. Wasn't a
yeah.
big fan. Burn, burn. I don't know how I can love a dog so much that I've never touched, but there it is. Like,
Yeah.
Bernie. He's the best. I remember when you got him, I died. And he's just gotten cuter.
See, I'm gonna start
Burn.
a separate spin-off show that's Bernie and Steph Quick's dog Oliver. And it'll
Mm.
be the Bernard and Oliver Borkcast.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
We'll just bark at
Well,
each other.
I'm glad we're talking about dogs because we're going to do a lot of talking about dogs today.
Oh, yes. People asked for this or voted for
Let the
this.
record be known. We gave you a choice.
We sure did. Yep. And this is what you chose. You only have yourselves to blame.
Oh my goodness. So we had our first live stream 6 days ago. Speaking of goblins, oh my God, I about had a nervous breakdown trying to connect the stream to the Zoom to the stream. It just wouldn't do it. It was absurd. So I just rebooted everything and had to start a brand new stream on YouTube. So thanks for everybody that showed up to laugh at us or swear
Yeah.
at us or think we're dumb or whatever you did.
I felt so bad for you because I realized how stressful it was, and like you put so much work into setting it up just right, and then at the last minute there was just this one thing that the link itself wasn't going to work. That was the
Yeah,
problem.
that was it. Like it, and that's the funniest thing is I am so hyper vigilant, and I know I get to work like half an hour early every day because I know like I'm going to forget something or I'm going to have to turn around. Like I just know like I need to pad in disaster time into my life. We're 3 hours apart, so it's kind of trying to do this during the week. Like I'm rushing home from work, so the night before we got it all set up and all ready to go, and like basically did a dry run, everything except hit the like launch button on YouTube, and I thought it was ready to go, and that was a lie. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's how
but
the goblins get you.
everybody stuck around, and it sounds like people had some fun, which is good. Some of our friends came and had a good time. It's always good when somebody does a stream and we all show up and talk.
Yeah. I mean, you were less able to monitor the chat because you were actually, had your hands full
Yeah,
with ink. But
right. For
so
those of you that didn't watch, Ink is my spirit board that we attempted to contact the spirit of Elvis on his what would have been his 89th birthday.
I was manning the chat and had to kind of entertain the troops while things were not
You did so
launching
great.
properly. So I'm just like
Yeah. You were like doing the tap dances.
yeah. Da, 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 da,
You
da,
did your
da,
best Michigan P
da,
Frog, and
da,
we were like, yeah,
da.
it was amazing.
I'll do the old
Oh,
trying to do some magic tricks that da, 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 da. But yeah, thank you everybody that showed up. It was
yeah.
amazing.
So it was
And
fun. It was weird. You never, that's why we decided to do it. We're like, we knew it was going to be chaotic. We had no idea what was going to happen. Like, the board didn't respond at all. Like, and it did. And one of the things we talked about too, and I acknowledged was like, Elvis is going to be super double booked tonight. Like he's all over the world with people talking about him tonight. So I wasn't really, maybe we should have picked a different day, but I thought your idea was like tapping into all the energy of everybody was smart.
mhm, yeah, which evidence to suggest we may have accidentally gotten Colonel Parker instead. Yeah,
Janet actually really believes that too. I talked
yeah,
with her after the live stream. So that was interesting. And it wouldn't surprise me that if it was Colonel Parker, the one message we did get, because I've talked to Colonel Parker a ton because I think he was a real jerk. And we were asking Elvis questions and it spelled out one word, which was, of course,
poo.
poo. Poo. And it didn't do it just once, it did it twice.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, poo, awesome. Not sure who we're talking to, like, perfect. And we were just like, giggling about it. And the first thing that occurred, which I didn't realize at the time, AP told me later because he was monitoring the chat, was our friend Stephanie Quick was taking Ollie, her chihuahua, who I also adore, out to poo.
Yeah, so she missed part of it. She came back. She's like, "Sorry, I just came back from, Oliver was taking forever to do his poo, and then I come back and the word poo got
It says
spelled out." So
poo. So we're all like, ah, ha, 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 right. What would be the next thing in the order of events that really happened? Did you get a message from the person? You got a message from our watch listener, right?
yeah, we have a
That
listener
watched.
that somebody, very nice guy sent me this message about how he's enjoying the show and he binge watched it
Thank you
all.
for
And then he
that,
sent me a
by
series
the
of
way.
yes. No, he had some super nice comments and it was really warmed my heart. And just like, because sometimes you do this stuff and meanwhile you're getting trolled by nerds on Twitter and you're just like, why do I even bother with this crap? Do people enjoy it? We put a lot of work into this stuff. Yeah, he sent me a series of pictures and said he had synchronicities related to the show, related to onks, a missing key. Now I didn't get the full story, and a pile of dog poo. And so
Right.
we can insert that photo in here.
Here's your warning if you don't want to see the onk poo photo. Said, and I was out and I saw this pile of dog poo that looked like an onk. And I thought about you guys, and we love that, okay?
Well, it's really funny when you see like the picture of the onk right next to it, and you're scrolling through the photos, and then you like get to the dog poo because it does. It's a dog poop that looks exactly like an onk.
Behold the holy sign.
Not only was it really funny as a private message and back chatter sort of thing, but now it's getting wrapped up into the show. So thank you for allowing us to use it in the show too, to build
Right.
our case on our dog poo synchronicities here. It kind of recalled to mind for me that the last time, again with Steph Quick, the last time that I hosted the Eternal Void with Jazz before that show ended, I think it was the last episode or one of the last. I talked to Stephanie and Kiki Dombrowski, and we were talking about dreams and symbols and synchronicities. And I do not remember the story, and I do not have that episode at my disposal anymore. But that, yeah, I mean, the end of the show was me talking about synchronicities related to dog poop, basically. Um, so yeah, you see these things spiral, and now here we are talking about dog poop again,
Yeah. Yeah.
because this is the kind of magic that SJ and I get wrapped up into.
So this is all, we're all like teeing over this. And on Wednesday, Portland got the worst ice storm that we've gotten for 5 to 10 years. Portland doesn't know what to do with snow. I laugh about snow, but like the ice is brutal when it hits out here with the Columbia River Gorge. Those winds come in and it just glazes everything with like an inch of ice, and it's like you can't do shit. Like people were dying from power lines, trees are falling. Like this is a serious storm. And a digression, but Vancouver typically does better on the Washington side than the Oregon side because our utilities are all publicly owned. So they're maintained on a regular basis. Our roads are better. Our schools are better. It's just sort of like the way that it is. Some power outages in Vancouver that were like sporadic, but people were back up. But there are people in Portland right now on Sunday. There's still like 5,000 people that don't have power. And there
Yeah.
were like at one point 60,000 people in Portland without any power for like 4 days. Like it was really rough. So they canceled schools. Like it's a whole crap show. Plus Portland only owns like 6 snowplows. Like, I mean, it was just like the city just shuts down. There's nothing you could do
And I
about
can
it.
imagine, like my part of the world, we're accustomed to that kind of thing. But the
Right.
plowing isn't even necessarily it. There's a lot of sand and salt.
All of this freaking controversy about salting the roads. Nobody wants to,
Uh,
and it's like salt the fucking roads. Okay.
yeah,
Like,
you kind of
yeah,
have to. I mean, and up here in the Northeast, if we didn't, yeah, we'd be shut down for days at a time. And we still do get ice storms that are unmanageable. People in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, we all get, power outages, and sometimes it can last for weeks, depending on where you
yeah.
are.
And Vancouver does salt the roads too. Yeah, we were locked in for like 3 solid days. I missed work for one day. I work a little bit north of here. So once I got out of the side streets and got on the freeway, I was able to just go real slow to work and whatever. So But the bad thing that happened is it hit over the long weekend, MLK weekend, the big storm, which I was like, great. If we're going to be socked in, like, I don't have anywhere to go for 3 days. I stocked up on food on the way home on Friday. Like, we were set. The thing I didn't anticipate is, I swear to God, like, as soon as the ice hit the ground, my 15-year-old Chihuahua mix, were again, another little mutt like Bernie and Ollie, and was sick. And when I mean sick, I mean, it's like you pick her up and she's leaking. Like, sick. And yet she was acting normal-ish. I kept her in the bathroom as long as I could, but like you can't keep a dog in the bathroom for fucking 3, you know what I mean? And it was just like, oh, my carpet cleaner broke. I was cleaning up shit literally from the minute I woke up till quiet time at the apartment, like giving, like, it was just a nightmare. And at one point I just like broke down crying over it and was like, is my dog dying? I can't get out. I can't take her to the vet. I can't do anything. You're just like utterly
Like,
powerless. And I'm praying and I'm crying and I'm hoping my dog's going to be okay. And I get up on Monday morning and I'm like, okay, well, if she's still freaking sick, I'm going to have to, I can finally get out. I'm going to take her to the vet. And I got up and she was running around and she did one perfect little normal poo right in the middle of the floor, which would have normally sent me over the edge. But I was so happy to see that one normal little turd that I was like, thank you, God, for the poo. And at that point, I was like, oh my God. So it was foretold.
yeah, it
I was
was indeed.
praying for a normal poo. Hallelujah. Thank you, Ishtar and Fat Elvis, for the miracle and the precog about my weekend of poo hell.
Yeah.
I don't even
All
know.
glory to the holy donut.
Amen. And then we get NASA showing us a black hole, which looks like a giant bunghole.
Yeah. Well, that was like an AI version of it or something. I wasn't really
All I
clear on
know
what
is
that
NASA's
was.
gay. Like, that is the gayest black hole I have ever seen in my life. And I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, they also seem to have a preoccupation with Uranus.
Well, we know how I feel about Uranus. I love it. You had some fudge from Uranus, did you not?
I did. Yep.
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe
they're
I sent you some
delicious.
fudge. I had them pack some fudge for you in Uranus because that was important.
Yep. Classic. Classic
So,
stuff.
yeah, we don't know. So this is classic us though. Like, we're gonna try to summon Elvis, and we get the cascade of poo.
Yeah. I mean, we did also, not for nothing, get um, what may have been an answer to one of the questions where we talked about
Dolly
who Elvis
Parton,
would have wanted to do a duet with that he never got a chance to. And
DP, yeah,
we got DP, and like idiots, we couldn't figure out for the longest time what that was. But somebody in the chat was
Allie.
like,
I think it was Allie,
"Yeah, Allie's like yelling at us, Dolly, Dolly Parton," and we're like, "Oh, right, that makes total sense."
and we love
Uh,
Dolly.
yeah, I mean, who doesn't love Dolly?
And that was such a huge, and he loved Dolly. Elvis loved Dolly. And that whole song, I Will Always Love You, he desperately wanted to sing it. And she would not, very wisely, sign over the rights for it. She's like, oh, she knew what she had. And so he never did get to record it, but he sang it to Priscilla on the way out of divorce court.
Uh, yeah, wow,
And they really did love each other. I mean, that whole relationship was just, you know what I mean? But I think they really did have this weird codependent, like, yeah. Anyway,
oh, yeah. I mean, she was an excellent businesswoman too, in a lot of the
yeah,
ways that Elvis wasn't. Like Elvis was really kind of dependent on his father and the colonel and
right.
stuff on the business end. But Dolly knew that that song was, if Elvis recorded it but let her retain the rights, then yeah, she could
Right,
retire and her
right.
grandchildren, great grandchildren would be able to live off it. But she knew that she had a very serious and keen business sense. She always has. So she's just kind of,
Yeah,
she's a national treasure, that Dolly Parton. But it did
absolutely.
kill her.
We love her.
It did kill her to not let him do it because I think she wanted to hear it. But
Ugh,
um, yeah, maybe a duet would have been a good compromise on that.
that would have been incredible.
Right?
All I know is I absolutely cannot listen to that last video of him singing Unchained Melody without just
Oh,
sobbing.
yeah, no, it's yeah, that'll kill you. Yeah,
Like,
no, I agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
like it's just so sad to see the down. Like he's still so talented, and you're like, dude, how are you even
taking like
upright right now?
yeah. The other thing about Dolly though, and it's funny because it's a little bit of a tie-in to some subjects we've covered before with the song "Justified and Ancient" by the KLF, which I was singing when we were talking about Moo Moo Land. All aboard the Moo
Yes,
Moo Land. Um, that was Tammy Wynette, of course, singing that with the KLF back then. Um,
forgot she
but
did that. Yeah,
yeah, that's her voice. So
yeah, I
that's
forgot that
actually
was
her.
Tammy Wynette.
And
Justified and ancient.
you look at the music video, it's hilarious. But the funny thing is that it had been suggested that Tammy sing that as a joke, but then one of them had been like an A&R kind of rep kind of guy, and was like made the call and got her to do it. But when she showed up, they were like, "Wait, who's that?" Because they meant to say Dolly Parton, and they accidentally said Tammy Whitehead. So that was the joke version of that was originally supposed to be Dolly. Kind of a weird loopy tie-in to something we've talked about before.
And you just told me the KLF are releasing a new album too, right? Moo 2?
Well, yeah. I mean, I couldn't really make heads or tails of that, but we can include the link and people can figure it out.
That's kind of
I
normal.
don't know. It was on the Principia Discordia Facebook page, and I'm not sure if it's the KLF. It's like the KLF with help from modern artists, I guess. So they're just kind of remixes and new versions of old KLF tunes. So people can check that out. There's a band camp for it, and some of it's on YouTube as well. So
Cool. We'll link you to that too. Oh, I paged Elvis successfully 3 times to the thrift store yesterday. I did it every stop and it worked. I have 3 spare gold Elvis glasses now
oh
that
wow,
we could either they were $1. So if anybody needs them, you can
nice.
apply by leaving a comment with what you're going to do with this glasses for our holy king. And if we choose you, we have 3 that we can mail you.
Wonderful.
But we want to see this put to chaos purposes. Like we want you to like wear them and do something stupid in public, or like put them on a statue, or like I'm not giving you any more ideas. You have to think of your own idea.
All right. Yeah.
So the other exciting, like I found, oh my God, the thrifts were insane. Like we went to get groceries in Portland because I it's way better vegan food eating and groceries in Portland. And my dumbass didn't realize like we haven't had power for 5 days. The stores are gonna be empty when they're restocking them. There's not so I was like, okay, I guess we're just gonna go to the store, whatever. This has happened to me a lot. This is like the thing. Everybody should know. If you've never watched before, I have a Shrek thing. Okay. And I can't even tell you how many times like I'm in the thrift store, like paying, and at the very last minute, there's been a Shrek thing like abandoned at the checkout, or it's like on the floor, or like some, you know what I mean? It's like last minute Shrekking. And it occurred again yesterday. I was checking out at one of my honey hole religious thrifts, listening to gospel music, and I looked behind the counter and I had never seen this before. And it's from the UK, which explains why I'd never seen it before. The Legend of Shrek. And it is a pop-up book. It's like fully interactive, right? It's $3. And I'm like, okay, this is awesome, but why is it behind the counter? And then I get to the final page. Okay, look at this pop-up, so good. And then I realize, oh crap, there's a button. It burps. So like every kid in the thrift store, I guarantee you, was running around, because I did, running around hitting the Shrek burp button. I'm sure that's why it was behind the counter. So this Holy
Yeah.
Bible has been added to the library. It is the tale, the saga, the entire saga of Shrek.
Hmm.
I had another
Wow.
really, really weird thing happen yesterday. I have 2 of these. This is incredibly random. I have an Elvis one and I have a Pharaoh one. These cows. These were like a thing, like in the 90s. I made big ones, whatever. Well, at some point, one of my cats came and knocked this off my altar. You could see he's got like a chippy horn, and I had to like reconstruct him. I got this at the animal shelter thrift, and I was like all sad that they busted my cow. I was like, you little.
Right.
I'm at
Yeah.
the same thrift store, and there's a second cow.
Yeah.
Why? How did I get two a year apart from like this is so random. What the is this? It's a King Tut cow. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Tutankhamun is its name.
Yeah.
So it was a real weird day at the thrift store.
I'm wearing a jacket that I bought at an estate sale yesterday.
It's incredible. It has a sheen to it.
Well, it's leather.
Oh, it's leather?
No, it's leather. It's a leather blazer.
Look at you. Hot.
Which I've kind of wanted one of these for a while, and anytime I find one at a thrift store, it doesn't quite fit. This one does.
Yeah.
So. And I wasn't about to leave empty-handed because Pam and I went to an estate sale yesterday, and the guy had lots of collectibles, and it was advertised and everything. So as you can imagine, there were a ton of people there. Couldn't even find a place to park on the street.
Ugh.
And so it's the kind of thing where you walk down and you get to the driveway, and there's some guy handing out numbers, and you have to wait for the number to be called. It was 17 degrees outside, and we stood out there for like 20 minutes. So I wasn't about to leave empty-handed.
Yeah. We got some good books too this week, right?
I did. We went to a little bookstore I hadn't been to before. So this is Mysterious New England. These are.
I like the cover.
I know, it's really cool.
Yeah.
This was published in 1971. It's the first edition. And I'm kind of familiar with this book. I don't know if they did later editions of it or if there's other volumes that came out, but Yankee Magazine is kind of like the New England local magazine. They have a lot of New England centric things in them. So that's where these stories all come from. They were all published in the magazine at some point. But it's really weird. I buy this, I come home, flipping through, and I see something about Mystery Hill in North Salem, New Hampshire. Reading it too quickly, I thought it said New Salem, and I thought it was Massachusetts. And I'm like, wait, what's this weird thing in New Salem? I don't think I've ever heard of that. So I flip through and I get to it, and they're talking about America's Stonehenge. America's Stonehenge used to be called Mystery Hill, and that made sense. And then I flipped through and I'm reading about it a little, and no sooner do I read that one article out of this and put it down, which was kind of silly. I've been to America's Stonehenge. It's nothing new to me. It's not like Timbuktu a couple times, it's not out of nowhere. It was like I was in a group chat with Barbara Fisher of 6 Degrees of John Keel podcast was in the group, and she just kind of like was talking about this thing that she was watching or reading about America's Stonehenge, and just wanted to vent about all the problematic and weird ideas they had about it. Because I mean, really, when I go there, I'm just like, this is a bunch of earthworks that were made by ancient indigenous people. I don't really see what the mystery is. Like, yeah, we don't know a lot about it, but also it's a privately owned property where they don't really let archaeologists come in and do actual studies. So it's going to remain a mystery as long as that's the case. But it was just so weird because I was like, wow, I was just reading about America's Stonehenge in this random book that I just picked up. And then on Facebook, right before we started recording, Lauren Coleman had a picture of this book posted on Facebook along with, because he was referencing a story in it about giant black cat sightings. And I was like,
he's real.
I haven't seen this book in decades, like literal decades. And I haven't seen a copy out in the world in decades. And I just happened to pick it up and happened to go to the America's Stonehenge chapter. And it's just like, it is weird when stuff like that happens. Now, some of this you can pin down to like algorithms, but
right.
Like Lauren wasn't even talking about the Stonehenge part. He was just sharing a picture of the cover of that book. Like, what are the odds?
Right.
Very, very weird.
That's the thing about these things. It's like books and dog poop, and everybody's always looking for that. We're gonna prove aliens are real. We're gonna prove ghosts. It's like, dude, no, the real weird shit is just gonna poke you like this.
Yeah,
gonna poke
yeah,
you.
and right. And when you start thinking of the question I always have at the front of my mind is, what are the odds? I always think, what are the odds? Like, how weird is
Yeah.
this really? What are the odds that
Uh-huh.
this book is going to pop up right now? What are the odds that the minute I stop reading a chapter, I open up a chat group where my friend Barbara is talking about
Talking
something
about
I
it.
just read? It's kind of weird. I was trying to explain some of this to another friend recently. Sometimes the reaction I get when I have a chance to really lay out like a synchronicity trail. I had one recently based on the letter T, which
Interesting.
is
Okay.
probably too hard to explain, but I just kept finding the letter T in isolation by
Yeah.
itself on the floor, like a broken sign piece that fell off and just had a
Twin Peaks
single letter
noises
on it.
intensify.
Right, or like Scrabble tile, and you're just like, "I know what letter this is, it's gonna be a T," and you pick it up, you're like, "Yep, it's a T." But,
Weird.
when somebody wants to actually hear me out and hear a full explanation of the connections, they're always just like, "When doesn't that, like, drive you crazy?" And it doesn't really for me. It
No.
it
You're like, you're
reassures
used to
me
it.
that yeah, well, I'm used to it for one thing, but it also reassures me that there's more to reality than we give it credit for. By seeing the interconnectedness of things and ideas, and synchronicity is just an aspect of that. It's the most
Yeah.
visible aspect and one of the most perplexing, and it's highly personalized, right?
Yes.
So it's a convoluted web. It's something I try to work through, but incrementally in little pieces with my writing all the time. So, and
Speaking of
that's the
which, are you all reading apstrange.com? Because if you're not, you need to fix it because this boy can write. Holy crap. The latest
oh, thank
blog on Houdini is yet another banger. It is so good. Well, it's on disclosure.
catastrophic
Everybody's like,
disclosure.
there you go. The catastrophic disclosure is that Houdini was a looker. Yeah, we got a Houdini crush, historical crushing. But it's just it's attitude, you know what I mean? It's like his middle finger is just up to the world. And I think that's why he's like so appealing to me. Is I'm like, yeah, Houdini could get it. Absolutely.
Historical thirst traps.
We're talking about Steph again. We always have like our historical thirsting or smart women thirsting. Or I just adore her.
Yeah, yeah.
Our crushes on random brains. The joys of
Yeah,
being
I mean,
sapiosexual.
we were talking about 80-year-old Hollywood gossip, and I decided that wasn't far back enough, so went back to the 1920s to talk about Houdini. So, if anybody doesn't know, because I mean, I don't think I make it all that apparent. Like, I am a tremendous Houdini nerd, and that was one of the greatest thrifts you ever found for me was that book.
Yeah.
$5 for this. It was William Gibson, the guy that created he wrote a lot of the Shadow stories. He was a
I just
prolific
thrifted
writer.
a shadow book yesterday. Anyway,
Really? Yeah.
the shadow
So,
knows. Yeah.
yeah, but Gibson used to write books on magic, and he was the co-author of this book that was kind of explaining a lot of Houdini's tricks and how they all worked and stuff like that. But yeah, that book is not easy to find. The lowest you ever usually find it for is like $50 online
Incredible.
if it's like a beat up copy, and you found a pristine one and got it for 5. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Then you're sending me a
I went
message. You're like, are you the one that has a boner for Houdini, or who do I
Yeah, we
think it
didn't
is?
even know each other that we were like sort of buddies, but that was one of the very first things I was like, "You're the one that likes Houdini, right?"
Well, you
It's so
specifically
funny.
said boner. You specifically said boner for Houdini. I remember that.
Well, I'm
So
sure,
because
my
but
mouth,
you're
like,
you're the one with the boner for Houdini.
now here it is, like, how the tables have turned.
Full circle. But yeah, I did want
That
a
was
good
early
excuse to
vintage magic before I really connected what was happening, where it's like, "Oh, I
oh, right.
accidentally thrifted this one thing that my friend has been looking for forever. Cool."
Yeah, I did desperately want that book, but I wasn't gonna spend a ton of money on it.
Speaking of the same thing, we went to Animal Shelter Thrift, right? And there was a bunch of 50-cent comics, and Dave's over in the books, and I'm like, 50-cent comics! And he's like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute. And there was this other dude over there, and I was like, I just started pulling, the old ones. Like, he's into Marvel and not DC. And like, I know a little, but I'm not like the comic nerd. And I found this old Star comic from 1949, and we got on eBay, and there's one that's like in worse condition for like $150. And I paid 50 cents for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. But Have you ever tried selling comics online?
No.
It is the biggest pain in the butt because
Oh, I
nobody's gonna
bet.
look at it at all unless you get it, like, rated by, Comics
Like
Guild
records, yeah.
Authority or whatever. Yeah.
He's like, "I don't have to sell it, do I?" And I was like, "Hell no, I did the trick. Enjoy." Like, I'll
Yeah.
never be able to buy one of those suckers, so
Yeah. Comic book selling is something I have no interest in because it just sounds like
same.
a huge pain. Like, people
Yeah.
are gonna ask tons of questions and yeah. I forgot. Yeah, I have gone book shopping since then. But one of the ones I got was this is a book that they pretty much would have been selling at a gift shop near
That's incredible.
Stonehenge. 1919 is the publishing date.
I just bought a
So,
1919 dictionary yesterday.
written by the curator of the Salisbury Museum with plans and
Ooh,
illustrations by Haywood
Salisbury Plain,
Sumner.
yeah.
So it may
Incredible.
yeah, I'm guessing that's something that you would have bought as, like, a tourist going to a little gift shop area, back
That's
in
awesome.
the 1920s. There's a little
It's an awesome find.
penciled in note about May 1924 from the prior owner. So,
Aw, that's
yep.
the best. I love
Yeah,
that when you find someone else's, like, travel it's, like, so special when you find I love that when you open like, a guidebook and you find, like, a train ticket in there, like, and you just think about, where that book had been. I think
mhm.
about that stuff a lot.
Oh, that's why I love used books because I've had this idea for a while that, and actually this ties into some of the theosophy stuff where when I was reading the books that Rex Dutta wrote, he would talk about this concept that I'm alluding to is something that gets known as like the Akashic record,
Mm,
the Akashic
the
library,
Akashic records,
however
yeah, yeah, yeah.
people that.
Mhm.
And that's an idea that was kind of developed by Alice Bailey, but kind of C.W. Leadbetter. It's like post Blavatsky theosophical stuff. I'm not sure where it originates exactly. I know Edgar Casey talked about it. It gets referenced along with Casey, but the way Rex Dutta describes it in his book, and I think I forget which one it was out of the three you wrote, but um, it's like when you're reading a book, if you have what he referred to as whole manas, when your spiritual self is all together, and you have a sort of extrasensory perception about things. When you read a book, you're not only reading the book and reading what the words say and internalizing that, you're also reading it through the eyes of the writer when they wrote it down. And you know everything that the writer knows when they wrote it, right? And what everything they
Mhm.
put into it when they wrote it. But you also, beyond that, are connected to every other person that's ever read those words
Mm,
in that book and their entire realm of experience. So it's
I
like
like
this,
that.
like metaphysical network, where when you pick up a book, now he's talking more broadly, but when you have a used book, it's like you can feel that more. At least I can. You can feel the you pick up the book and there's some little inscription in the front. It's just
Yep.
like to Dorothy, Christmas 1948. Wow, all right. Or just somebody wrote their name or their little book plate, and you wonder about who had this book before.
Mhm.
But then I also love it when there's little notes written in the margins and underlined sections and
That's my
things like that.
favorite.
Yeah, and you just imagine, or like you said, people leave things in there, like the Pyramid Power book that I got. Pyramid Power. This book had the original receipt in it. The receipt from when it was first purchased at a bookshop in Maryland. I was like, "That's just wild." Like, it even had the date on it. It was like 1976. Somebody bought it,
Neat.
you know?
So neat.
So but yeah, I feel like, in a sense, haunted the books are haunted, right? Like, that's the way I look at it. Like, my whole weird library over there, each book contains the spirits of not only the authors, but, like, the people who read it, the people that enjoyed it, the people that borrowed from it to make their own books, which are also haunted, and, they all have energy and vibrations from everybody that's ever benefited from them or hated them, like, all the energy that can be thrown around through the ether, in any direction and all the ideologies and imaginal thought forms that shoot off in every direction are absorbed back into these books. And when you have a small library like I do, when you have a bookshelf that's busting to the seams with books that range from brand new to like 150 years old, yeah, there's a lot of ghosts in there. It's just a little
Yeah,
haunted library, but all the
it's
ghosts
amazing.
just want to sit down and have coffee with you while you read it.
So good. Speaking of reading, AP deserves a trophy
I guess so.
because Guess what he did? Cover to cover, baby.
Yeah, the Secret Doctrine is complete now. I have read the entire thing, and, I have ascended slightly. I've gone up half a notch towards ascended
Mm,
mastership probably,
there you go.
but yeah, I read, um, my whole thing was getting back to Rex Dutta. I wrote about him on my blog years ago, and I kinda stopped, but he will be returned to one of these days. But for those who don't know, our mutual friend, Steve, AKA Reverend Stardog, who was kind enough to do our theme song for us, Theme 23, he was a good friend of Rex's, so, that's kind of what got me into Rex, which he was a ufologist and a theosophist and kinda, like, took Steve under his wing back in the '70s, and they investigated UFO cases together, which is super cool, and I think their relationship is fascinating too, all worth writing about one of these days, and I have written about it a little
Mhm.
bit, so if you go back, you can find that in my blog under The Curious Case of the Fish Doctor and the Man from Ashtar Galactic Command. Yeah, back then, it's like his main influence was the thing that got him into UFOs, Rex, that is George Adamski, George Hunt Williamson, like the early contactees. And to him, it only made sense if you thought about it theosophically. Speaking of old haunted books, I have this first edition of Flying Saucers
Mm,
Landed
look at
by
that.
Desmond Leslie and George Adamski. It's
Incredible.
gorgeous. I love it. This one does have a book plate in it. I tried to look into who the author or the former owner may have been. I think I might
James
know, but
Beck.
I'm not sure yet. Yeah, and Desmond Leslie himself is very much a theosophist, and I remember reading this back when I first got it. I particularly went kind of to the end. He talks about the stanzas of Xian, and I'm like, what are the stanzas of Xian? Like what even is that? Looking into it, I'm like, oh, that is the secret doctrine. That's what Blavatsky's talking about. The Book of Xian was this ancient text written in a unknown language called Zenzar. It was written on palm leaves, I guess, and
Mm,
that's where Blavatsky got those stanzas that she builds her 2 volumes of The Secret Doctrine around. And I knew then when tried to read Flying Saucers Have Landed, and I was reading Rex's work, and Rex has a very much more accessible way of explaining theosophical concepts. But I knew back then, since I had a copy of The Secret Doctrine, I was looking at it going, I am going to have to read that whole thing someday. Like, I just don't have I don't have it in me to pick something up and read little sections here and there and then feel like I understand it. I know I'm gonna be missing something, and, been staring down the barrel of that book for a couple years, so I'm happy that I actually read all of it because I feel like that's an uncommon experience, but I have to say
sure.
it was pretty taxing, and now I'm happily moving on to reread Flying Saucers Have Landed through this new lens. And I have to say, Desmond Leslie writes a lot like a 1950s version of Blavatsky, and it's pretty funny having that context now. They're the same kind of flippancy towards like scientists and other occultists and things like that. So I guess he was a bit of a rabble rouser. I sent you that video of him like punching somebody on live TV.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah. his his girlfriend or wife at the time had gotten a bad review for a
Ooh,
performance she did on stage, like a play, and there was something wrong with the way the stage was set up that made it so it wasn't really her fault, but this TV critic had kind of torn into her, and Desmond Leslie shows up, and he's just like, "Excuse me, would you mind? Just stand up for a minute," and then he just like socks the guy on live TV.
incredible.
Yeah, so, Desmond Leslie, what a character, but, he
Wow.
also was one of the earliest, like, electronic musicians. He
Okay.
has this album called well, actually, I'm not sure that was necessarily released during his lifetime, it might just be a collection that was put together later. It's wild. I would give it a listen if, any of the listeners and watchers on here, look up Desmond Leslie's music because it's all very kind of like ambient and electronic. I guess it would be called like musique concrète,
Hmm,
the avant-garde style of music that you're kind of using pre-recorded noises and putting them in a musical form, that kind
interesting.
of thing. Yeah, so wild. It's pretty wild stuff.
Round and around we go.
Yep, so we've both been pretty busy. It's hard to cram even when we're not that busy. Like, I think you and I both have had, like, whole weekends where we didn't leave the house, uh,
Yeah.
recently, various health problems and such, and weather issues, but even still, there's never any shortage of things to talk about. But we do have fun stuff coming up because we're gonna be talking
Yes.
to Alan effin Greenfield
Next
pretty
step,
soon.
people.
Yep,
Who you
uh,
thought the live stream was chaos.
yeah.
Anything can happen and
Yeah,
will.
and, I think we got more Mortellus coming up as well.
Correct. Yep. Mortellus, they're going to join us and talk about their brand new book, The Bones Fall in a Spiral, which is a how to, the first volume of a how to be a necromancer in an ethical way. So I'm pretty
Mhm.
excited to talk about that.
Heck yeah. Yeah, so we can probably hopefully, this doesn't become a continuous thing because I don't wanna continually talk about poop.
No.
As amusing as it was, and, as funny as it is to have a little juvenile episode, but we couldn't let it pass unnoticed
Or it would just
because
increase. That's how it works. You have to like
right.
acknowledge it. I swear.
Yeah,
I'm not even
exactly.
kidding.
Oh, yeah, it'll just keep pinging us if we don't wanna get pinged by poo. So, in the
No.
immortal words of Stephen Fry as General Melchett on Blackadder Goes Forth is, "Never poo-poo a poo-poo," you know? We're not gonna poo-poo the poo synchronicities because, poo-pooing a poo-poo only leads to ruin, you know? Uh so Blackadder
Indeed.
fans will get that, but, if not, I
Indeed.
guess we can put a link to the YouTube clip, which is hilarious, but
The world works in mysterious ways.
sure does, sure does.